Good morning. All right, it is Wednesday, April 24th, and it's time to ride on. All right, so if you saw the title, today is Webcam Wednesday, and as I promised on Monday, I was going to go ahead and switch cameras, and so that's what's going on today. Of course, there's always a few settings that don't quite work themselves out quite right, but that's all right. When you go live, that's always going to be an issue. You're always going to have something that just doesn't quite go right, and that's one of the things that we're going to work on. So I am using a Logitech 922X webcam, and what I was using before was a Vixia HF R400 camcorder with the use or assistance of an Elgato Cam Link. I know this all sounds like a big bunch of mumbo jumbo to most of you, but that's how we were streaming before. And I really honestly had no idea how the technology had changed with web cameras, and so that was part of why I wasn't using one or didn't give one a shot in the past. So the issue that I've had going on is the camera's been freezing up for about a month now, and so switching over to this webcam hopefully will resolve the issue, and we're going to find out together. The video quality honestly isn't as good, so we're not grabbing like this awesome video, and there may be a little bit of delay with sound. I'm gonna have to work on some of this. This is literally my first shot using this particular webcam, but if it eliminates the freeze up, that's a good start. Good morning, Mother. Hey, everybody else who's watching, say hi to my mom, because she's on. There we go. So this will be interesting. It's just going to be a trial and error, getting everything up and running and getting it to look semi-decent. We are on the London route, or one of the London routes today. So that's one of the cool things about using Zwift, is that, all right, this is a little annoying for me, so I'm gonna move myself down. So this is one of the cool things about Zwift, is that there's multiple different routes that you can go on. I try to stay on a more flat route when I'm riding, just because of my current condition. I'm trying to stay away from the hills at this point, but eventually I'll get there. But I try to stay on the flatter routes. And hang on, let me get you guys. Oops. Let's get the background music rolling. Oh, well. We're not going to have background music today, guys. And the reason we're not going to have background music is because I forgot one of my pieces of equipment. And that just is what it is. One fix at a time. So yeah, so one of the cool things about Zwift is that there's multiple different routes you can go on. You don't ever have to worry about really getting too bored as far as the different parts of this app as far as what you're riding. As you remember, on Monday we were riding in the desert of Watopia, which is the made-up world of Zwift, but they do have other routes throughout the globe, and they're adding to them often that you can get on and ride. And so today, London was up. It had a fairly flat course, and so I decided that this would be what I ride today. Of course, I changed my gear setup a little bit. I got the bike and beer gear set put on. You can put that on your garage. So there's a lot of cool things that you can do, or you know, they're fun, interactive things that just make the game a little bit more interesting for most people. And then if you're somebody that wants to stream, of course, then you've got to deal with other choices, such as your gear, or your actual physical gear. And today, as I said earlier, switched over to a regular webcam, which is made by Logitech. And I have the 922X is the one that I purchased. And for anybody that's just trying to do live video, live streaming, this is a pretty good choice for you because it's under $100 and the video quality is pretty good, and there's a lot of control you can actually do. One of my reasons for using a camcorder before, and you can also use a DSLR and or a mirrorless camera, was one, I already had it, but two, you're able to zoom in. Well, what I didn't realize, because I haven't kept up on webcam technology, is that you can zoom in with the webcams now, which wasn't something you could do in the past. And so I learned something new this last month, and now that's not, you know, not an issue. It doesn't hold it back. The reason that's important is because when you're using a green screen, as I am, you've got to be able to get into that screen. There are some technical ways to do it within OBS, which is one of the softwares that I use to eliminate your surroundings and only have the green screen. There's also technology within this particular webcam that as long as you have a solid surface behind you, you can actually use also, even though it's still recommended to use whether it be a green screen and or blue screen. But a solid color behind will actually work with this camera. You don't have to invest in a green screen. But I still find that it actually works better to do that. For those of you that are trying to figure out, you know, how am I putting myself on the screen and it looks like I'm somewhat part of the game. It's really not complicated. And there's a lot of softwares out there that do this. There's a lot of capture software that you can buy, but I use a free software called OBS when I'm doing my screen capturing, and then I also use it as my streaming service. So this is kind of the hub of where I do some of my streaming. Now, a lot of time when I just go Facebook Live and all that, I don't bother with this. I'll just do it straight from my phone because it's quick and easy, and especially when I'm teaching other people how to do it, you like to just give them the equipment they already have. But when you're taking the next step up, going to a webcam like this is actually pretty good. Hey bud, come on, let's go. I was that guy a few months ago, pedaling like crazy and going nowhere. So I know I've been improving. But yeah, so if you start going into the point of, let's say that you have a laptop and it has a webcam on it already, the problem with those is that most of them are not very high quality and don't have the same capability. And so when you start trying to make more professional video, you're going to want to get yourself into a better camera, and you don't have to make a large investment to do that. I would say the most important things when you're trying to do live video or even recorded video or screen capturing, where you're actually teaching other people how to do things, is you want to make a decent investment in your camera. You want to make a bigger investment, or more important investment, in your microphone setup. Again, your camera or your computer may already have a mic built in, but the quality isn't very good. And so you're going to want to invest in something. And if you're not quite sure where to go and you're trying to step your game up, just reach out to me on whatever platform you're watching right now, and I'll be happy to assist in giving you some of the ideas, some of the downfalls of different choices that you could make, and just help you get better. And then really that's the goal of every day, is just keep getting better and better. But this, so far so good. I mean, at the end of the day, this particular camera for me, if it doesn't freeze up while we're riding, which is the issue that I've been having for about a month with my old setup, then great. I'm not going to worry about it not being necessarily as good a quality. Even though it's pretty good, it still runs 1080p. It does allow for zooming, which is important when you're using green screens. Even though the software that I use for this particular deal is actually allows me to crop in, so I don't have to worry about it too much. And if this terminology doesn't mean anything to you, don't worry about it. It really isn't that complicated. And if you need help, again, just reach out to me, and we can find a way for me to carve some time out to help you. But I'll show you an example of what this green screen is doing on the crop here in a second. Hopefully I won't lose this guy. Probably won't see it here. Yeah, you will. There you go. So you see how my arm disappears? That's because the crop that I've put on this is making sure that the green screen is all that's behind me and nothing else, so that we have this effect. Again, really not that big a deal for most people, but it's somewhat distracting when people jump on a live and they don't have the person talking on the screen, and they almost don't know exactly what's going on. And so I find when I watch similar type videos that this just makes it a little bit more interesting. And then if I don't want you guys to see me, then I can turn me off, get me out of there. If I just want a picture of myself, I can pop that up. If I want that gone, it's gone. And of course, if I want myself back up on screen, I can do that. Of course, even with this software, I also have the luxury, and we'll show you this part, of moving me wherever I want. You know, so I mean, in theory, I could actually crop everything and just have my head on my own avatar there, but let's not get too weird today. And so there's a lot of things that you can do with this type of software. A lot of people use this. A lot of the younger people actually use this software to help them stream their gaming. More professional people will use this software to have meetings. They'll use it inside of their either Google Hangouts or potentially like a Zoom meeting. There's things they can do there. That gets a little bit above most people's pay grade as far as, you know, skill level. But this isn't overly complicated. I will be putting together a course soon, showing people kind of the basics of how to set this up and what it looks like and whether or not it's something that you should be doing. Now, if you're like me and you like to be a little bit more efficient, of course I use multiple platforms at the same time for this particular purpose of sharing my rides and my journey, my weight loss journey that I'm currently on. And so I stream currently to multiple channels One is Twitch.tv, which is owned by Amazon. So that's more of a gaming platform. And because Zwift is a game, they welcome this particular content. I also stream to YouTube Live on my Oaf Life channel, not on my business channel. Those of you that aren't sure what Oaf stands for, it stands for Old AF. If you don't know what AF stands for, ask a kid. They'll tell you. They should tell you. Not a kid, you know, that's a 20-nothing. They'll tell you. But you can probably figure it out. Old AF, old as, you know, fill in the blank. So I stream to that YouTube channel, which houses all of these rides. So does Twitch. It's sometimes a little bit more difficult for people to find me on my Facebook, and now for the last couple of weeks I've been actually doing this on my personal profile page as opposed to my Oaf Life page. But it's just to show people, you know, what I'm up to, follow the journey. For a lot of people, they need that encouragement that if I can do it, they can do it. You know, I'm currently, I don't know how much I weigh right now, but when I started this, I was over 300 pounds, and I have this goal to get down to 244 pounds, or a BMI of 35, by January of 2020. And so I've committed to not just this activity, but this activity Monday, Wednesday, and Friday here live on whatever platform you're watching. And so there's a lot of things there's a lot of ways that people would find this interesting for their own business. And so, again, they need a little bit of technical help. And like I said, reach out to me if you need that help. And we'll find a way to get together to work on those things for you. So, but just imagine if you could do one stream. So here's a reason why somebody would want to do this. Let's say that you do want to, you know, let's say you are already on multiple platforms, or let's say that you see the value of multiple platforms, and those are not the only platforms out there that you could be streaming to. So if you saw that value in whatever it is that you're doing online, then you could stream to, I don't even know what the list is right now. It's over 50 different streaming channels that you could actually be a part of. Now, they're not all free, and so, you know, but if you're already paying for them, you know, and let's say you're doing a Facebook Live where you're, you know, doing trainings for different people, just putting value out there, or just sharing, you know, your business opportunity, or, you know, a real estate property if you're in real estate, or, you know, the benefits of life insurance, whatever it is. You know, how powerful would it be that you could actually do this on multiple platforms at the same time? You know, you could kill all birds with one stone kind of thing. And so there is some value for some people to using this technology and putting it together. It does take a lot of trial and error. I've kind of put that work in already for you. And so for those of you that are just curious or truly want to do this, like I said, just reach out to me, and we'll find time to do a small little consultation and see if we can work something out where I can help. Man, this is I love this time of year because everything's starting to wake up from the winter here in Michigan. And I know I'm going off topic a little bit, but where my riding room is set up, I actually have a window over here that looks outside into the woods, and then a window over here that also looks outside. So I'm kind of, the computer and everything is actually in a corner between two different windows. And you know, I don't know what time it started getting daylight this morning, but before 6:30 this morning, I noticed that the daylight was rolling. I don't know exactly, and I know last night it ended, you know, it was after 9 o'clock and you could still see outside. So the days are longer, and that's awesome. I mean, and of course this time of year in Michigan, everything's just starting to, you know, to bud. So the leaves are starting to, you can see them just starting to come out. Of course the oak trees take a lot longer, but the other trees start getting greener. The grass is just starting to grow, and soon we'll be mowing it. You know, it's just a good time of year. It's not hot yet, it's not cold. You know, the mornings might be cold, but it usually warms up throughout the day. So I feel like I would love to live down south someday. However, there's a lot to be said for these 4 seasons that we get in certain parts of the world. You know, I know not everybody likes winter, and for me, I love winter, but I do get tired of it, just like everybody else. I don't like the short days so much. I think if I was living my dream life, I would follow the sun and spend my winters on the other side of the world, just so that I could avoid these short days. And so, you know, and maybe that will be my future someday once my daughters are old enough and they're off on their own. You know, I may live in Australia half of the year. Who knows? I was fortunate enough in my life to live there for a few months back in 2010, and though I didn't get a chance to really explore much of the country, I got enough of a preview of what life could be. Speaking of that side of the country, or of the world, my favorite place is the most southern end of Thailand. That's probably my favorite place in the world. And honestly, I could potentially see myself living there when I get old. And for all you young people, I know I'm old already, but when I get older. So, my dream life would probably involve spending a little bit of time in the good winter months, you know, over here, but traveling throughout the winter, and then of course enjoying our summers, a little bit of our fall, and being here this time of year in the spring to kind of see it all come to life. Man, this incline is actually kicking my tail a little bit right now, as you can probably see. But I will tell you this, I mean, I understand I'm definitely progressing here, because in January when I would do that kind of a climb, I mean, I would be down, no kidding, I'd be down to like 2 miles an hour. Barely, like 25 RPMs. Now, I still don't know what that means in kilometers, but basically very slow. So that's exciting for me. You know, that's been the goal this whole time, is to just get used to the bike again, get myself in shape. I understand I'm not seeing the results I would like to see as far as the scale goes, and I've refused to weigh myself for at least a month now because it wasn't serving me mentally the way I needed it to. And there's so many more benefits than just the scale. And so it's not that I won't start weighing myself again in the future, but I had to get my head right a little bit, because I put so much emphasis on how much I weighed, because that is a goal that my surgeon put in front of me, was to get down to 244 pounds, that I spent a lot of time fixated on that goal. And when I wasn't progressing, you know, I'm human, I kind of wanted to give up. And that isn't good for me or anybody. As I've said before, if you guys see right up here on the left, so you don't have to only cycle. That guy right there is a runner, and you can actually be on a treadmill with a $39 pod and be walking and or running here in Watopia on Zwift, which I think is super cool. You actually, for some people, have doubled the benefit of what this app has to offer. Now, the app isn't free. You get a free trial when you get going on it, but it's not free. And so it's around $15 a month, depending on when you're watching this video. It may be more, it may be less, but it's a $15 a month subscription. You can cancel anytime. They don't care. They're not dumb. They know that a lot of people aren't going to use this in the summertime or in the warm months. They're going to be outside riding, but they don't want to just completely cancel their membership. And so you can turn it off month to month if you'd like. Which I think that's how all businesses should be. You know, if somebody wants to do a month-to-month subscription and, you know, they want to turn it on and off here and there, I think that that's always a smart thing to do. And I think it's also okay that they give you a discount for 1 year paid advance. You know, so that's an offer that a lot of companies will do too. So you could maybe take this from $15 a month down to, let's say, $12 a month if you paid in full. And I don't remember if that's an option here, but that's kind of a general statement for online companies. I always struggle with the absolutes. Like you're either in or you're out when it comes to, you know, especially like gym memberships. You know, one of my biggest beefs with the Anytime Fitness group is that they do not make it easy for you to turn your membership on and off. And the fact is that for a lot of people, it might make, you know, they may have a small injury and they have to be gone for a month. So why should they pay for that membership? And the fact that Anytime Fitness makes that so challenging is a pain in the tail to me. Now, however, I do know how to do it because I've done it more than once. And it isn't using your local gym, whichever one you signed up with. There's actually a way to go through their corporate offices and get it taken care of a lot easier. But I love Anytime Fitness for the fact that you can do it anytime, anywhere. But they have an issue that just reminds me of what a lot of gyms do. And they just don't have a good e-commerce system set up for you to turn your membership on and off. But hey, it works for them, I guess. Now the company that's kind of taken over in a lot of places is Planet Fitness. And I don't have enough experience now to tell you that they've figured that part of the game out yet, but let's hope so. But they have figured one thing out. The cost of entry is so inexpensive at $10 a month that most people, even if they don't use it, will pay $10 a month. I guess just to say they have a membership somewhere. I'm not sure. But that's always an option for those people. Oh man. Woo! This time of year definitely gets the old allergies rolling a little bit, so apologize if you gotta listen to me sniffle, but that's just the way it is. That's another beautiful thing about going live, that there is no hiding anything. There's no video editing room to take out the reality. Those of you that got a chance to watch my introduction video for a masterclass I'm going to be training in next week, that video turned out okay. I mean, I could keep beating myself up about things I should have said or could have said. That video turned out okay. But that took 20 separate takes to get to the video I finally released. And the point of that is that when you're doing this kind of stuff, when you go live, there is no retake. You don't get to start over. Whatever mistakes you make, whatever life throws at you, that's just part of it. The best you could ever do is take the video down after the fact, but, you know, so I know that's a fear for some people, but the reality is that if you are in online marketing and you're using, you know, live feeds to help you, people don't mind seeing the mistakes. I'm not saying be all over the place and not be organized and just wing it. But people don't mind seeing the errors and the mistakes and the loss of train of thought. I mean, you even see it on live TV, you know, such as shows like American Idol, where those kids will get on stage and they'll forget a line. And you don't see it as much anymore. I think that the people in the past have helped the people now learn that you gotta just keep rolling with it, even if you make an error, and don't worry about it. And if you've made a mistake, you can omit it later, as far as, you know, saying, okay, well, that particular fact was wrong, or this was a point where I stumbled, or whatever that particular thing is, or even immediately where you just truly admit, I lost my train of thought. It does happen. And so you don't get to edit those things out like you do in a more produced video. But people actually respond to that a little bit more, because it just shows you're real. I mean, there's no hiding your flaws. And of course, there's all kinds of other parts of it, such as today, no background music, because I forgot to include one of my pieces of hardware that I use. And so even though you see the no copyright sound there on the right, the heartbeat's not beating because I don't have it on, just because I forgot a piece, which is fine. It's all part of it. Video freezing up, no big deal. Sounds not so good, no big deal. You stumble as you talk, you get off track, you babble, it's all good. It's all good. Now, for today, the whole purpose of this video, as far as the title went, was Webcam Wednesday. Well, we've been rolling for over 30 minutes, and it looks like potentially that there's a delay between the sound and the video, so that may be slightly distracting for everybody. I'll have to look at that later. Only you guys know right now whether it's synced up properly. But that could be a potential issue. But what we don't have is the video freezing up, which has been a huge distraction and definitely unflattering for me when it's when it freezes up and I've got some goofy face going on at the time, you know. And when that first started happening, I wasn't sure how to react to it or what to do. And that's just part of it. I mean, you start to learn all of these little tricks that just make it smoother. I will tell you, for anybody that does anything similar to this, just expect that there could be some issues as you're going along, and don't worry about it. Be ready for it. Be calm. React as you need to. If you fully feel flustered and frustrated, then just stop your stream. But don't worry about it. It's not like I've got a piece of broccoli stuck in my teeth the whole time, or do I? That kind of stuff happens too. I will tell you a little bit of advice when it comes to these higher end cameras that you will start using if you're working with me, is that they definitely show your flaws. So if you think you can get away with, you know, not shaving before you go live, you can't. You should shave, because it comes through very clear when you go on. If you decide that, you know, you're not going to cover up that spot, if you're a woman, you know, that you don't worry about too much, because maybe your eyeballs aren't so good and you're not really seeing the fact that not wearing makeup is actually that big of a difference. It will be. And I'm not saying that, like, I'm one of these guys, I actually like women who don't wear makeup, but, you know, you may not like it. And so just know that these cameras are very good. They're very clear. And whatever flaws you may have, everybody's going to see them. And there are settings to change that, but when you're first starting, you know, when you're first testing a new piece of equipment, you may not catch those. So not a big deal. People like to see real. They don't like to see fake. So don't worry about it too much. Don't let it stop you from doing what you're supposed to do. But just realize that those are just things that are going to happen. No big deal. 35 minutes in. And a minute behind schedule. So we got to keep rolling. Not going to be able to stop today. Where like a lot of times I'll stop here and there, take a little break, and even if I'm not on the picture, you'll hear that my bike isn't moving. So, especially after I do something like I'm doing right now, which is climbing up a 6% grade. If you're not sure what grade I'm on, all you gotta do is look to the right hand side. You'll see 5% right now. And then if you look to the left, you'll see the wattage. And a lot of times, my wattage will have to go up, which means my power is going up. I'm pushing harder. For me personally, physically, I mean, there's definitely an effort going on the pedaling side of this. And this game knows that I weigh 300 pounds. And so I'm getting the real life resistance that comes with weighing that much. And so that little skinny asshole that just flew by me doesn't have to worry about the same things. And of course, if he's 5'2" and a skinny bastard, he's really getting off right now. Because the game rewards you for also being shorter. Gives you less wind resistance. So now, because this is a game, I can actually play the game. And part of that is what I'm doing right now, which is hitting the featherweight button. And you know what that's going to do? It's going to drop my weight for a short period of time, which means I might be able to catch up to the little prick. And so that is one of the cool things about this game, is that there are rewards that you get when you ride. So whether that be a power related award, an aero award, which gives you better wind resistance, this featherweight one that I just got, and it won't last long, but it gives me a little bit of a boost. And so there are some gaming aspects to this. God dang it. The fact is that I'm in nowhere way near the condition of these people. And so I don't even normally care at all about where I place or how I'm doing in the game. For me, it's just about getting that hour knocked out and having something a little more interesting than just staring at the wall or trying to watch TV or trying to read or listen to an audiobook. And there's a lot of things that you can do to let the time go by when you're doing something like this. But for me, I choose streaming to share this journey with you guys and hopefully provide some value. Some of you really are curious as it relates to how the technology works and how I'm able to do this. And so that is one of the things that I actually help coach people on, is the technology side of marketing. And so, as you may have guessed, I'm a little bit of a computer geek. And so that allows me to help a lot of people. You know, and others are more interested in this as a form of exercise. Some people are just into cycling and they're trying to find a way to get more time on their bike. Some are actually just into weight loss and they're trying to see if this is something that might work for them. And so there's a lot of reasons or purpose behind me sharing this with you guys. And then there's my own personal reason, which is the accountability side of it. It actually helps me wake up on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday and actually do something and actually get this work in. Because between the 3 platforms that I'm on, which is YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook, I have a lot of people watching. And I know that they'll call me out when I stop showing up because I've committed to this. And so if I don't show up, I start getting those messages. And then I also live by this other rule, which is that my message may not be for everybody. The inspiration that I'm providing may not be for you, but even if just one person's life has changed by me doing this simple thing of riding my bike online, then it's all worth it. And you never know who that person is. You don't know when they're going to show up. They may sit back in the background and watch and watch and watch, but sooner or later, these things, as you share them, become very powerful for some people. And it is all they needed to get themselves going, just because you were able to do so. And I'll be honest, that actually falls into anything you know how to do. I remember back when I was, before 2012, when I started my weight loss journey back then. And I remember probably the years 2009 through 2011, I had quite a few female friends that were my age or a little older, and they looked phenomenal. They were skinny, they seemed to be in shape, and when you'd ask them what they were doing, they just kind of like, nothing special, which was BS. Like, they weren't sharing what they were doing. And so by being so nonchalant or just saying, hey, thanks, and nothing big, and not going into the detail of sharing their journey, that for me was somewhat discouraging. And actually for me, it actually pissed me off because, even though I didn't want to be overly intrusive, I really wish they would have shared their journey with me just so I could try to figure out what was going to work for me. And they didn't. And I still to this day don't know what some of them did and or are doing. I understand that some of them might be doing some very unhealthy things, and that's why they don't want to share it. They may be starving themselves. They may be taking medication and or prescribed medication to help them. I don't know. But I do know it kind of pissed me off that they didn't share their story. And I'm not necessarily talking about people that have always been in shape or thin. I'm talking about people that weren't. Like when we grew up, as we were growing up, maybe they were a little bit chunky, right? Maybe they didn't look so good. But now in their 40s, they look amazing. And through their 30s, they looked amazing. Something changed. They did something different. And they didn't share it. And the selfish Dave was kind of pissed about that. And so that's one of my motivations for sharing also, is that, like I said, it's not for everybody. Matter of fact, there's a lot of people out there that think what I'm doing is the absolute wrong thing to do. And that they have a better way. And then they go out, and what ends up happening in that particular circumstance, you've heard me say it before if you follow me for any time, is that they go out to prove me wrong. That their way is better. What they don't understand is I think that's awesome. I'm not trying to be right. I'm just trying to be right for me. And so if you've got something that you can share, now I will tell you that a lot of those people, they still don't actually share their real secrets, the real behind the scenes, what they're doing. And that kind of pisses me off too. Because all they show is those positive results. They don't show the negative pitfalls it took to get there. And so I'm the kind of person is I like to see real. And I don't look at people's failures as saying that what they're doing doesn't work. Because the end results are going to be whatever they're going to be. I tend to always kind of do this, but probably in this part of the conversation it might make sense. Let me get my old man glasses on here. They're now fogging up. So let's throw that back up there. If all you ever saw was that before and after picture, and there was no story in between it, that has zero value to anybody out there. Nobody cares that I looked like that February 1st, 2012, and that I transformed to the after picture by October of 2012 if there was no story in between. Like, look at me. Look at how great I am. Okay, well, what did you do? right? How'd you do it? That story matters more to most people than anything else. The story in between is going to help. In my case, it helped hundreds of people directly, and indirectly thousands. And it continues to help a lot of people. And the funny thing is, it actually continues to help me. Because over the years, over the last 5 years, I've been sitting at a desk for 10, 11 hours a day. Now, to be fair, 9 to 11 hours a day. 5 to 6 days a week. And I went back to some of those old habits. You know, when I got to that point pre-2012, I had progressed up the ladder, the corporate ladder, into a very high level position. The problem with that high level position is that I went from being out doing to now sitting in meetings and being on conference calls and doing strategy sessions, putting together presentations, putting together proposals, reading and writing, reading proposals, critiquing suppliers, going through the entire gamut of project management for any of those people out there that have done anything like that. Spending my time all over the world working with different companies to make them better. But the bottom line is not moving. And so, similar to what was going on before 2012, I found myself immersed back into a similar situation where I was in front of a computer for 5 straight years for most of my life, or most of my daily life. And so even though I was working out and I was using the crutch of powerlifting as a reason why it was okay, my health started to suffer again. And so that inspiration that I put out there for the world is actually even for myself now. Now I know I'm not doing the exact same things. My body's a little different. My circumstance is different. I have an injury that I have to be careful of. And I'm trying to change my egotistical mindset as it relates to exercise, more specifically staying out of the weight room and doing something different. I understand that the journey's different, but the fact is that before and after picture is still a reminder that it's possible, and that if I keep going, I will achieve my goal. I may not look like that again, but the aesthetics of what I looked like was never the goal. Back then it was to avoid a needle. Back then was to avoid becoming type 1 diabetic. I was pre-diabetic at that time. And so there was an underlying mission there that had nothing, that just ended in a result of having a decent looking body transformation. But my biggest achievement back then was going off of all medication. And really what I was doing was controlling my different blood levels. So cholesterol, blood sugar level, even my blood pressure. I was doing that through exercise and diet as opposed to having to be medicated for it. But my goal, my mission, or my drive was so I didn't have to prick my finger to get the blood test. That was it. And so I know the goal is different now because I know how to control my blood sugar. And yes, unfortunately, I am still back on medication. But the point of this little mini rant is that before and after picture has been so powerful for so many people. And it is for myself now too. A little more personal, obviously, because I have to remind myself that what I'm doing is going to work, even though the results aren't as fast this time. But they are going to work. I also realize that, so I will tell you this. Let me just let me take advantage of my award and get my arrow boost. I will tell you this. When you go about a transformation like I had in 2012, and then you find yourself back in front of it again, it is super challenging to do it the second time because you know how you had to go, how hard it was the first time. And it's like, I don't want to do this, right? That happens. I don't want to do it. I'm not going to do it. And so you give up a little faster because you really do know how hard it's going to be. And it's hard to see that after result because you know everything you did the first time, how hard it was to change your habits. And so I will throw this at you because I've learned this over the last few months. Whatever you did the first time, learn from it. Obviously try to follow the same principles, but switch it up. Try something different. In my case, I'm forced to do a low impact form of exercising, which for me is cycling, but switch it up, because if I went back to the insanity beach body workouts, which is what I started with back then, I hated it, and I would never have started again. I disliked it that much for a couple of reasons, and I wish I would have shared this with people back then. But one, I couldn't do 90% of the moves. I would find myself just literally running in place often instead of being able to do anything that guy was doing. You know, I've done the T25 workouts when I got in a little bit better shape with the idea that it would be shorter. I've even tried a lot of the Beachbody stuff. But I can tell you that unless you absolutely love it, switch it up. Do something different if you're starting over. And for a lot of us people that have obesity issues or even being overweight, this is always going to be a roller coaster. And to think that it won't, you know, I'm not saying it's you want to give yourself permission to slip up and give up over time, but it's a reality. I'm not unique. You see a lot of people go from being fat to fit, back to being fat again. It's common. The goal, I think, is to just keep fighting the fight. Just keep rolling with it, man. Just keep recommitting yourself to a new goal. And try to make sure that you have a big goal in front of you that isn't distracting. We talked about a couple weeks ago having a single measurement almost derailing you. And the experience that I had in corporate America, specifically General Motors, where that would actually hurt the company because they were only being measured by a single statistic. Even though they measured a lot of bullshit, at the end of the day, they only cared about how many units they produced every day. The problem was they didn't care about how quality was secondary to production. And so, similar when you're in this world of weight loss, let's say that the only measurement you ever take is your weight. Well, you may derail yourself pretty easily if you're not measuring other things, such as your blood work. And so if you're not getting that blood work done, then, and the scale stops moving, or if it starts going in the opposite direction, you may easily give up because you're measuring too little. You're not measuring enough stuff. There is a simple fact that you may be adding muscle, right? Now, you know if your diet's messed up. That's one thing for sure. If you have a trainer, they know what you're doing when you're with them. They can't control what you're doing when you're not. And so when you're cheating on your diet, you know if that's the problem. And you just have to mentally get past that. Maybe your trainer's not the right coach for you as it relates to diet. Maybe you got to add somebody else. Maybe you got to get a different system. Maybe you've got to do something different. You know, but you know when that's the issue. But if you're gaining weight, you might be gaining muscle. Now, would you put 15 pounds of muscle on in a month? Probably not. So if you're putting 15 pounds of muscle on, or 15 pounds on, just know that that's probably a diet issue and not your awesome gains. But for some people, they get so discouraged by a single measurement, and I'm no different. That's happened to me. It's happened to me recently. And so I stopped weighing myself because there's a bigger picture here. Even though the surgeon would like to see me down to 244, the bigger picture is my overall health. And so I have to keep doing this and or something. And so this is part of my cardio game. And then, believe it or not, hiking is actually part of my weight loss plan. If you use any app at all that measures calories burned, go on a hike and turn that app on to hike and watch how many calories you can burn in a 3, 4, 5 mile hike. It is amazing. Now, you will not necessarily have the same results as I have as far as calories, because one of the factors is your weight. So if you're super heavy and you're taking your big old trunk legs up and down hills, that's part of the factor for calorie burning when it comes to hiking. My particular route has a lot of elevation changes, and so taking 300 pounds up and down those hills can burn a ton of calories in an hour, where being on the bike, where weight isn't necessarily as big a factor as far as the measurements go, I think I burn 300 calories on an hour, when I'm out here on this hour ride every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. That same hour out hiking is over 1,000 calories. So if you're a calorie in, calorie out counter, if that's your gig, hiking is pretty good. Way better than pretty much anything else that I've found as far as the tools that measure calorie burning. Hiking is huge. And if you want to up your game, then start rucking. Put a rucksack on and throw weight in there. If you're a woman, try to put 10 to 15 pounds, and if you're a man, try to go 20 to 40 pounds. Throw that extra weight, maybe even 50. Throw that extra weight in a rucksack, also known as a backpack for those of you that don't want to spend $200 on a Go rucksack. But just add some weight in there, and of course increase your weight on your app so that it calculates it for you. But you can burn some big calories just going out and hiking, or what the cool people say, the hipsters, rucking. I'm not necessarily a rucker, but you get the point. All right, back to the topic. The webcam for test day number 1, webcam Wednesday. The Logitech, I think it's a C922X, has done its job. I got to mess around with some of the settings on it, but we didn't freeze up, so that's good. Next piece is for me to review the footage, spot check it, and if there's a delay in the sound, then see if I can fix that. But that's less important, to be honest with you. I know it might be a little irritating for some people to watch, but that's really not super important. But if I can fix it, I will. But I'm pretty happy so far. So here we go, under $100, well under $100. A webcam that can zoom in onto a green screen and do the job that only in the past a very expensive camera could do. And so I'm all about doing it cheap. If you can do it for less and it looks good and the quality's there, that is the way to go. The more expensive way to do it is to go to the Elgato.com website, look at CamLink, look at compatible devices, and any one of those devices that it says it's compatible with, you also want to read the data on what it can and can't do, because there are some restrictions on some of those cameras. Some have a 30-minute on-air time, well, they'll shut off after 30 minutes, and that doesn't work for most people. But anyways, go to the Elgato website, look up CamLink, look up compatible devices, make sure it fits all of the buttons you need, and then if you want to spend that money, then go that route. That would be the only upgrade I would suggest at this time. Though you can make other cameras work with Elgato, such as I have, that is part of the reason that there's issues and I was freezing up. My Canon Vixia HFR 400 is not on the list of compatible devices, and so that's part of the issue. It's not supported, and though I manipulated it to work for a while, it no longer works. So that's my 2 cents. And we're almost at our hour, so what do we do at the end? We crank it up. I really want to hit 1100. Oh, I can't do it. Woo! I really appreciate everybody being there today. Those of you that are watching, I love you. Have a blessed day. Have a great Wednesday. For those of you that work 5 days a week, it's hump day. And we will see you on Friday. Love you guys.